employees within the organization. Freeman, obviously in 1984, talked about stakeholder theory and said that everybody, when a business is making a decision, a strategy, everybody has to take into consideration stakeholder theory. Carrigan and Mellett, 2004, they talked about how business has to take care of the society around them to have effective business. In 1987, so that is the employee part. In 1987, the Brundtland report came, and they talked about extensively about environment and the cost of running a business on the environment. And that's where the environmental concerns comes into picture. People start taking notice after the Brundtland report. So when we have people are looking at, okay, we have to take about corporate social responsibility, so what are the benefits? McWilliams and Siegel 2000 have said that even if you have a lot of investment in R&D and other stuff for corporate social responsibility or your society as a whole, even after having considerable amount of spend on those, the business can still be profitable. Why corporate social responsibility? In this age of social media, people are really concerned about their image. That has been told by Roy and et al. In 2013. So when we talk about any business strategy, we have to take into consideration who are going to implement those strategies. So the first is internal stakeholders. Roof et al. Has said that how internal stakeholders, aka employees, are so important of addressing a successful CSR implementation. Wheeler et al. Has talked about how employees and companies are in a dyadic relationship. Camp et al. Say that employees are such a vital cog in running an organization. Van Bruyn in 2005, Swanson in 1999, they talked about how if you addressing employee needs will manipulate their attitudes and behavior. So when I talked about how to manipulate their attitude and behavior, I started looking at what employees do actually need. So I looked at the need spectrum, and in Hogan in 1990 talks about employee need spectrum covered the need for status and the need for sense of having a belongingness. And we have actually in 2013 carried their research forward and said, yes, when an employee's need for status and having the sense of belongingness are fulfilled, they look for social responsibility, their need for social responsibility. So Phillips et al., Phillips in 1997, Jenkins in 2006, they say that when you have a CSR policy within an organization running, it ensures trust and it demonstrates integrity. Integrity is showing ethical attitude during the time of crisis. So here we first talked about the employee concerns, and as we talked about the Brundtland report, so the environmental concerns and procedural concern when we are producing our products and services comes into picture, and Phillips and Babike, they talked about this environmental concern one more. Tang and Zing 2012, this is the closest research to my proposal. They actually came up with this idea that if you have a CSR policy, you can actually manipulate employee behavior like organizational commitment, job satisfaction, and such and such. And mine, I have taken my idea from them that how I can and move my things forward. Ramos and Steger in 2000, they talked about employee effect on CSR. And Rowley and Drummond actually are a similar kind of research. Now, as I'm talking about the small and medium industry, so I started looking at how CSR can affect a small and medium industry. Jamali, Abuga, Arundel, Brettel, they all talked about even if you're a small company, even if you're not from basically a spotlight, you still have to employ CSR as your strategy because that will benefit you. Williamson and Marula and Yozuna, they said that even if you're a small company and you have environmental concerns, it do have a positive effect on your business. But the thing is, every small company do have certain challenges. A small, medium enterprise always have time, money, and resource. That's their three biggest challenges they do have. They are always fighting for bankruptcy. So in spite of having all these challenges going around, how can you implement a CSR strategy? That's basically my research interest. So in this study, we will try to see that is there a distinct form of CSR which do affect employee behavior? And investigate the individual effect of CSR on employee behavior. So when I say that my closest research paper is Tang and Zi in 2012, they talked about CSR and then how CSR can be used to manipulate employee behaviors. I find this interesting to see that if it is a unidimensional construct or there are two distinct forms of CSR strategy. One employee-centric CSR and one process-centric CSR. So taking that into consideration, I have actually made two dimensions of a CSR and tried to come up with this research question. Between process-focused and employee-focused CSR, which one should an SME prioritize considering its implication on employee behavior? So in this study, we are going to address employee behavior and trust, relation between employee behavior and trust. I'm going to identify the mode of CSR that needs greater attention and priority. I will ultimately address how a firm can be perceived trustworthy to its employees. We'll understand the relationship of employee behavior to distinct form of CSR. We'll understand how trust can be enhanced when interacting with different forms of CSR. As I told, eCSR and eCSR, as I'm going to mention that going forward. So my conceptual diagram is, I have two forms of CSR, eCSR and eCSR. That has been mediated by trust, and the trust will have effect on job satisfaction, organizational commitment, and organizational identification. My conceptual diagram is a fully mediated one. And my control variables are gender, age, which are regular, educational qualification. Why I took educational qualification is because I think if you're highly educated, your perception of CSR changes. Your total experience also do have a change in perception in CSR. So that's why those are my control variables. So I started looking at what is CSR. I find upping number of definitions of CSR. I chose two of them which suits my eCSR and eCSR mode. So the first definition which I chose is from Hopkins 2003, and he talked about CSR is concerned with treating stakeholders of firm ethically and in a responsible manner. So I said, okay, what is internal stakeholders? Obviously employees. How can we treat an employee ethically and responsibly? Then I started looking at the support and the justice literature regarding employees, and came up with a spectrum which covers distributive justice, which talks about sharing benefits of harm in the organization according to your responsibility and your deeds. Interactional justice is basically how a sensitive information can be given to the employees in an ethical manner. Procedural justice is how an employee can be involved in distributing jobs and responsibility to them. And perceived organizational support is when an employee perceives that organization really care about their well-being, that's perceived organizational support. So that basically covers my justice and support literature.